Good morning. I'm calling this meeting to order at 10:02 a.m. I'm David Doe, Commissioner and Chair of the Taxi and Limousine Commission, and I'm joined by our Board of Commissioners today, Commissioner Sorrentino, Velasquez, Chan, Bader, and Kaufman. This has been an incredibly busy week. On Monday, I had the honor of testifying in front of the City Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, and Commissioner Paul Bader was also there to testify in support and make his opinion known on some of the other bills that were presented in front of the committee. There were a lot of public comments about Intro 1000. And before we begin to today's hearing, I'd like to tell TLC officers out there that I hear them loud and clear. There are not enough places in this city for drivers to park and go to the restrooms. It's hard for non-drivers to truly understand how stressful this can be. To have to drive around desperately looking for a spot to work and park and to worry about being ticketed while you run to use the facilities. It's not something that anyone in any workplace should face. At TLC, we don't regulate the city's limited curb space, and there's a lot of competing interests when it comes to how we use it, for what purposes and for how long. But we have an advisory role, and I want drivers to know that we're actively working with the DOT to not only keep expanding the number of taxi relief stands and FHV relief stands, but to also get them in places where drivers can benefit them the most using data. Lastly, I'll just like to add that it's good to see a healthy amount of TLC drivers at Monday's hearing to make their voices count. I will now hand it over to General Counsel Ludo to take us through the agenda.
Good morning. Commissioners, the first item before you are the minutes for the June 25th, 2025 Commission meeting. I will call a vote to adopt those minutes. All in favor of adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Thank you. The vote is unanimous and the minutes are adopted. I will now call on our Director for Base and Business Services, Fabian Cancel, to present the base license applications.
Thank you. Are any of these, what percentage of these are renewals versus
I'm
new?
sorry. Yeah, there's 47 total. So 2 are new and 45 are renewals.
So relative to the new ones, which of course are the ones that we're most concerned about, is there anything unique, unusual about them that we need to know about, or are they in areas that are underserved? Is there a need in those areas specifically for more, or is it just a routine kind of new applications?
So the new applications that have come through were just submitted as normal applications. They are trying to serve their communities, and aside from being licensed by the agency, they haven't actually addressed that they are providing an underserved area. They're just trying to start business.
And I see that both of them are from the same address in the Bronx on Bruckner Boulevard. Are we to assume that they're the same ownership?
I can't answer that. I don't have that information now, but I could get that for you.
Just kind of curious to know whether or not there are, is this developing as a situation where there are new independent operators, owner operators who are trying to increase the number of available livery, or is it a situation where a few owners who have X number of licenses are applying for multiple more?
To be perfectly honest, that would actually require an in-depth review between the applications. We haven't done that as of yet, but that is something that we are considering.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Commissioners, can we have a vote on adopting the base license recommendations? All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. The motion's adopted unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we will now have Russell Glynn, Director of Policy Research, present a report on the Street Hail Livery Pilot. And
Good morning, everyone.
You have it on your board. Yes.
going to try to be a little ambidextrous here with my clicker and my laptop, so we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to provide a quick overview of the SHL Pilot Program Evaluation Report that was included in the materials for today's meeting. Okay, it's working. All right, so to kind of cover the most important takeaway from the report up front here, we're recommending that TLC adopt rules to make the SHL Pilot permanent for participating drivers and allow the licenses issued under the pilot to expire either when the vehicle is no longer affiliated with a base or when the vehicle owner fails to renew the license. We're working on a rulemaking to this effect that we hope the board will consider. The report provides more details on how we arrived at this recommendation, but I'll summarize a few of the key points here today. Before I do that, a quick refresher on the SHL Pilot. As you probably remember, in May 2023, TLC developed a pilot that introduced a new class of vehicles known as Pilot SHLs. These vehicles had streamlined hack-up requirements compared to the green cabs that came before them, and focused on providing prearranged trips in the outer boroughs. It's worth noting that only EVs, Waves, and hybrid vehicles were eligible for the pilot. So the final report analyzes the pilot in a few ways. We looked at driver demand for the pilot SHL permits over the course of the pilot, as well as passenger demand for trips in pilot vehicles, and considered the impact of the new permits on the safety and composition of the overall for-hire fleet. In the report, we used TLC data to demonstrate that there's been a significant drop in driver demand for the permits over the course of the pilot. So at its peak, we had about 900 drivers who received the permit and affiliated with a base that was willing to provide trips subject to some of the restrictions in the pilot. However, over the last 2 years, the number of permits in good standing has fallen significantly. So as of June of this year, only 563 permits are currently in use. This translates to an attrition rate of about 40% over the course of the pilot, again, among those drivers who secured the permit and affiliated with the base. That rate is about 5 times higher than the rate seen among other types of FHV licenses issued over the same period. Most permit vehicles active today. Yeah, sure.
Question just for my own clarification. For the 915,
Yes.
did they actually get permits or they just expressed an interest?
So they got permits and affiliated with the base. There were 3,500 permits created, basically, but those 915 were drivers who actually went all the way to affiliating with the base and, starting to provide trips.
And then the delta between the 915 and the 3,500, no one just ever took you up on the other 3,500? Or on the delta between the...
Yeah, like drivers may have expressed interest, bases may have expressed interest, but it didn't get to the point where the driver had the permit and affiliated with the base and was ready to, put the vehicle into service.
Okay. So then the rest of those, what was left over from the 915 of the 3,500, those were just never accessed.
Right.
Okay, got
Yes.
it. Thank you.
And to what did you attribute this 5 times higher attrition rate?
I have a couple thoughts on that in this next slide.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So if we look at where those active vehicles, where those 560 vehicles are active today, it's really with the largest, most established non-high volume bases. So some of the larger traditional black car and community car bases. If we look at vehicles that were affiliated with smaller bases, there are some concerns we have about the reliability of the records we get from those bases, but the data suggests that it was really difficult for drivers who affiliated with those smaller bases to remain profitable. So, that 915 to 560, it's mostly a story of drivers who just didn't get enough trips from the base they affiliated with. So if we look at that 560 in the context of all the active vehicles in the non-high volume FHV sector, it's a pretty small share at this point. There are about 22,000 vehicles dispatched by non-high volume bases in June of this year. But we found that those permit vehicles actually perform more trips on average than the typical non-high volume FHV. So again, the vehicles that are still active are doing more trips than vehicles that do trips for similar types of bases. If you look at calendar year 2024, the average Pilot SHL that's still active did about 900 trips last year compared to about 500 for all other types of vehicles dispatched by those non-high volume FHV bases. Yes.
Did you analyze the usage rates by neighborhood? And is there a potential that some neighborhoods particularly rely on this solution?
Yeah, it's a little tough because unlike on the high volume side, we don't get great geographic detail about where these trips are happening. There wasn't really a clear story from the limited data that we reviewed there. Yeah.
You have information on the bases that they were located? Is it mostly, well, they have to be in the outer boroughs, is that right?
Yes, they have to provide prearranged service in the outer boroughs. The report has some details on the types of bases that are still using these licenses. So sort of just to bring together these two key points that I've hit today, there are fewer SHL permits active today than there were at the peak of the pilot, but they're clearly useful for some drivers and some bases. And so we want to allow those drivers and bases to continue using them. By making the pilot permanent, we can ensure that even if they're playing this small role in meeting demand in the sector, they can continue to do that. So that's the recommendation.
So what we're talking about here is the permanency of approximately 563 permits that are what you want to ensure or give the opportunity for them to become permanent.
Yes, I think there's some stuff we need to iron out around, is it those 915 who are affiliated? Is it those who are active? But that's the general ballpark.
And you're going to come back to us with a more specific proposal for us
Yes,
to...
we'll have a rule package that specifies those sorts of things. All right, any other questions before I wrap up?
Just a quick follow-up to Commissioner Bader's comment. So by making a pilot permanent, are we freezing the number of permits, or can drivers still apply for new permits under what now would be the permanent program?
I think only the drivers now participating are eligible. So yes, it will essentially be a freeze.
Right. Thank you so much, Russell, and thank
Thank
you
you.
to you and your team for doing a fantastic job.
No problem. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioners, we will now turn to item 6A on the agenda, the Cyclist Awareness Decals Rule Package. The proposed rules were published in the City Record on August 4th for public comment. We held a public hearing on September 3rd, and the public comment period ended on that date. On September 12th, the final version of the proposed rule was posted on our website and circulated to the Commissioners, along with the hearing transcript and all written comments that were received. Commissioners, may we move for a vote to adopt? All those in favor, please raise your hands. Great, the rule passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we go to 6B on the agenda, the personal injury insurance coverage requirements rules package. The proposed rules were published in the City Record on July 29th. A public hearing was held on September 3rd, and then on September 12th, you received the final versions. Commissioners, can we move for a vote? All those in favor of adopting, please raise your hands. Commissioner Bader? Yes. Okay. The rule is adopted unanimously. Next up, we have item 6C, the wheelchair accessible vehicle conversion requirements rule package. Again, the proposed rules were published in the City Record on July 29th. The public hearing was held on September 3rd. September 12th, you received the final version. It was posted on our website. Commissioners, may we move for a vote? Please raise your hands to adopt. And the rules adopted unanimously. 6D on the agenda, the high volume for hire vehicle driver payroll package. The proposed rules were published in the City Record on July 29th. Public hearing was held September 3rd, and on September 12th, the final version was posted on our website and circulated to you. Commissioners, may we move for a
I'd
vote?
like to speak on this, if I
Sure.
might. We don't have a number of representatives here, but this is a very complicated issue. There was a lot of discussion about this at the hearing. It's complicated because it involves not just the geographic area of the city of New York, but has implications for New Jersey, Westchester County, Nassau County, other places, Connecticut, relative to the ability of all of us to regulate at different levels the fees and the driver compensation for rides that start in the city of New York and outside, and/or rides and drivers that start outside the city and have rides ending in the city. And of course, this is particularly applies relative to the airports, more specifically to JFK. And it's an issue that we all on the commission are concerned about, and we are looking for ways that we can work with the state and our partners in these other jurisdictions to find a way to make it more comprehensive and to ensure that, once again, the drivers are not left out and are not the people who suffer the most, and that they are fairly compensated and their time is compensated and their interests and concerns are taken into consideration before and after when there are any rules that are being made. So this is a growing issue. More and more people, especially the JFK, do not want to drive from Westchester and Nassau, and so it's something that it's important, and we're going to see what we can do to, make some kind of comprehensive planning for. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, may we move for a vote? All those in favor of adopting the rule, please raise your hand. The vote passes unanimously. And we have one more item. Item 6E is the waiver of the 30-day period after promulgation so that the driver pay rules can go into effect sooner than ordinarily. Can we please move for a vote on that? All those in favor of adopting the waiver of the 30-day period, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Commissioner Doe, I turn it back to you.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you to our commissioners for being here today and your support in ensuring a strong for-hire industry for all. I also want to thank Cheryl, Russell, the licensing team, and the legals team for being here and supporting all of the agenda items today. And with that, the time now is 10:21, and I'll close the meeting.